the outlines or any of the papers, please send an email to our admin, ministry@unityofbloomington.com, and we will get these sent out to you so that you can have all the materials. For those of you who came last week, I didn't get the sliding things out to you. I will do that. All right, we got them?
Yeah, I'm just putting them away.
Yeah, I should have had Lily come. She would have organized that in a much better way. No, I have 2 pairs. I'm trying to look cute, Tana, okay?
Very nice. You look very cute.
Thank you.
Smell good.
Yeah. Thank you, yes. So yes, I have my boots. I actually have 2 pair. You know, I keep saying, I told Mary Medore when I first moved here, I'm so excited. I have a pair of snowshoes in my Amazon wish list. She's like, you're not going to need them. Gail got like 3 or 4. She's just really gone off the edge with her snow boots. All right, do we all have all the papers? I apologize for the, what did we call it? It was my opening?
A warm-up?
Okay, right, it was the warm-up. Not planned, but okay. All right, let's all take a deep breath in and out. All right, so welcome. I'm glad that you're here. Thank you for hanging out with me for 3 weeks. It has been so fun. Those of you, again, who are watching online, thank you. And so today we're going to conclude the whole thing, Western religions and exploring Eastern religions. But what I want to begin with is what I ended last week alluding to, that I wanted to talk just a minute or 7 about the Gnostic Gospels and the Gospel of Mary. Because one of the things we talked about, the canonical Gospels, the 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, have similar stories, similar structures, and then John, but they weren't the only Gospels around. And so Emperor Constantine needed to get things under control. And so this meeting was held together, and the basic books of the Bible were put together. Because, you know, if you're trying to tell me you have authority, and I'm quoting from this gospel that says, no, my authority comes from within, well, now you got a problem with me. And so that was sort of what's happening. And I love the Gnostic text, to me, very much similar with the thought that was called New Thought, but very much what we already believe, turning within. This is a spiritual path. And so this set, as I explained, was found. Some young shepherd boy was digging, clinked, hit something, found the manuscripts and went to some professor or some other people, social scientists. He's like, look what I found. And he took him like a little bit of it. And I'm like, oh my God. You know, wherever you got that, we'll pay you so much for every little piece. So he was tearing it off in pieces. And then finally someone followed him or asked him, he's like, oh no, it's all together, but you said you would pay me for every little piece. And they found these. And I think the one thing to really remember is that these texts were hidden inside jars. So I think that gives a clue that this was not accepted by those who were in authority. These were hidden away and then found, I think, in 1945. And so you have the books that are in there, the different stories that present Jesus, that present the spirituality of that time. I think the one thing that I really wish I had spent more time on, which is everything, is the Essenes, because that was a religious sect that many people think that Jesus was a part of, but they sort of been wiped out of the Bible. All we know about is the Pharisees and the Sadducees. But this was very much the readings and the spirituality of the Essenes. And then I also wanted to share the Gospel of Mary. Now this was found in a different codex. So these books were hidden in several different places. So the Gospel of Mary is not in the Nag Hammadi library, but it's in the Berlin Codex. So again, there might be 6 or 7 more of these hidden somewhere. We just need some archaeologists, that's the word I was thinking of, some archaeologists to find them. And so the Gospel of Mary, so very interesting. There's a verse where Jesus is asking, or there's a conversation where he's asking the disciples, which we think are just the 12, but there could have been more people around. It says, who do people say that I am? You're Elijah, you're this person, you're this person. And he says, well, who do you say that I am? And then Peter replies, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And he says, it wasn't flesh and blood that revealed that to you. And and on, am I telling the right story, Phyllis? Yes. Yes, and on this rock I will build my church. Well, you have a very different presentation of who the church went to, who Jesus was preparing in the Gospel of Mary. So I think it's very interesting. What was the book by Dan Brown? The Da Vinci Code, that brings this whole story. He presents it as a fiction, a whole narrative to life about Jesus and Mary being a couple, that they had a child, that she had to get out of Dodge because, of course, people weren't happy with the followers of Jesus, and then that she went to France, I think, and lived this story out. Now, there's actually a nonfiction book that is the foundation for Dan Brown's story that really traces this lineage. So again, just like part of the Catholic Church's theology is that Mary remained a virgin, there's sort of this concept that there's something special about Jesus, and he was above human needs, and so he didn't have a family, and he didn't fall in love. But the truth is that in Aramaic, there's not even a word for single man that's not a boy. So you're either a boy or you're a married man. Right? That's how they got down. They weren't just like single guys at the club, Jesus at the club. It wasn't like that. They were in family units. And so the likelihood that Jesus in the narrative was a family man and had a wife and children is not that foreign. It's foreign to us because we want to keep them super holy and above all those human things. So this concept that Mary Magdalene would be given a place of authority as his partner. There's a group of women, I think it's John 8:40, I have to look it up, that says these women finance Jesus' ministry. Like most churches, women are putting in the offering. No offense, Joe and Mayan and Reed. So he's always had a group of women around him who were empowering him. And as I said last week, my licensing sermon to start the path towards ministry or ordination in the AME church, you have to preach a licensing sermon. You stand in front of your church, you preach that sermon, and they vote right in front of you, whether to license you or not. My message was in honor of what I call the first person to preach the gospel, and it was Mary Magdalene. He is alive. That's what she went and told the disciples, who were, of course, off in the corner, hiding somewhere. But her and Jesus' mother, of course, it would make sense as his wife, she would want to go and finish up what had happened with his body. Yes, ma'am.
One comment that I have heard
Yes.
is that if Jesus had not been married, if he had been a single man, nobody would have paid attention to his message.
Right.
Because he would not have been part of their culture.
Correct.
A single man just wouldn't do it.
Right, so that comment is that a single man would not have caught the attention of the masses because he would have been probably viewed as some kind of weirdo. I always say one of the miracles in the Bible is that they were at Peter's house and Peter's mother-in-law is sick. And Jesus says, hey, my mother-in-law is sick. He touches her and she gets up and she starts feeding him. I thought, that's right, heal her so she can do some work here for us, right? But I bring those to our attention because I think so much oftentimes this patriarchal worldview, this place where women aren't valued. That's not, in my opinion, and I think it can be supported by the text, not the heart of Christ. And of course, when we think about, from our unity principles, the principle of God is absolute good, that no one is excluded. But that's a very foreign concept, even in this country. We exclude people. Any questions or comments? So I gave these all to you because there's no way we can talk about everything, but you can have a chance to look at it. We can always reflect on them later. And let me also drop this idea in your mind is, what is the next workshop you want me to do? So think about that. What's the next workshop? Could we do it on a night, either by Zoom or in person? So think about those sort of things. Hold on, you can have the microphone.
Well, I've really never paid attention to the Bible, but
Yes, that's the challenge of most people in this country.
well, it's just, yeah. So you're saying, if I'm understanding, there are two Marys, Mary and Joseph, the parents of Jesus.
Yes,
And the wife of Jesus is Mary and Magdalene?
correct, or at least there's Mary the mother and Mary Magdalene. There's also Martha and Mary.
I guess it's because Mary must have been a very popular name or something. I just
Correct,
wondered
like it
why.
is now, Maria, Jesus. I mean, when I lived in California, like Jesus was everywhere. Hold on just a minute. So yes, very popular name, probably coming from, we have Moses' sister Miriam, which I think means princess, or even like Sarah, right? So
was it Mary Magdalene at the cross?
yes,
Okay, and what about Jesus' mother?
she was there too.
And father, okay. No?
We don't know. Joseph seems to go out of the book, so I don't know what happened to him. So the story is he was older and he passed away. But then remember, people did not live very long, so he didn't have to be older to pass away. I mean, what wouldn't kill us today? You get cut in the wrong way and get an infection, gets in your blood system. We get shots, they to put you in the hospital, fill you up with liquids, flush you out, and you're good to go. Back in that day, that would have killed you.
Yeah.
So from the narratives, Joseph is not at the cross. It's Mary and Mary Magdalene.
When I was in college, of course, Jesus Christ Superstar was very popular. And I did Mary Magdalene's song, I Don't Know How to Love Him.
Mm.
And I always thought that, I did that at a college campus thing. Anyways, I always felt that he was married to her and more involved with her, if not taking vows, but was more involved with her as his wife than anyone else.
Yes, in the Nag Hammadi Codex, it talks about they kissed in front of the disciples.
Mm-hmm. Now, is it the Catholics that didn't recognize her as his wife?
Yes, they did not.
Because that would be sin. I mean, he
Well,
had to
in
be
their mind, right? First of all, he's above all that. And I mean, the question is, why is Mary Magdalene presented as a prostitute in the Bible, where there's nothing that says she did that? But so if I want to villainize a woman, right? So I don't want you to know that she was the partner of this man. I'm going to make her the worst type of woman possible. And so again, it's the presentation of her as a prostitute.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? So I love this day and age, and I love the conversation with Mayan, and when we very first started talking about this, is there a safe space that we can talk about these things? These different gospels, these different ideas. Most churches having a conversation, there's a saying in the black church, God is good all the time. All the time, God is good. It's like a saying. So there's this young black man who's a podcaster, and he said if that's true, because that's what he'd heard his whole life, where was God during slavery? God is good all the time, and all the time, God is good. Well, black folks gonna get mad about that. Don't you be questioning God, right? Again, but why can't we ask questions? Right? I mean, that would seem like a horrible time for God to not be around. Right? In the Holocaust. So, then that gives us an understanding of how are we identifying God, and people are God. So God was missing in the hearts of people that were acting in these certain sort of ways. But again, you've got to have that conversation. Yes, Reed. Good, and make sure you turn it on.
I guess just like thinking about the Holocaust and slavery too. Yeah, it is.
There you go.
Like those that like had true faith as they were going into the gas chambers, and like even if you are in the planes, if you're singing gospels, if you like have your heart, like you're content with your fate, which is tragic, but it's like you are content with what is happening.
And that could very well be their case. I think the question that this young man is asking is, in the black church, they aren't talking about how good God is. Okay, well, when this horrible stuff was happening, where is this God? Right? So that opens to a conversation, but there's not many safe places to talk about that.
Isn't that true around the world, though, with everything that's going on? Isn't it a question that a lot of people have that are not faith-based, that have a question of where is God in all this?
Correct. So, and there's a whole study. There's also another set of questions. If God is good, why do bad things happen to people? Right? But okay, this is a whole different theological. But yes, where is God in the midst of this? And part of that challenge with that is that everyone's looking outside. God is right here. And if I recognize that, and even that, I'm just really trying to restrain myself. But as a woman, people don't know what you go through as a woman to become a minister. Not many people to mentor you. Cannot tell you the inappropriate comments made to me on my journey. I was at a United Methodist church talking to a friend of mine, and I said, something, my presiding elder, who would be like the supervisor of the pastors in my group. And I said, something. He goes, what, you didn't sleep with him? So I'm like, no, and he didn't even ask me that, but like in his perception, that's what was the problem. And just the whole thing. So then for a woman to get elevated, like to the presiding elder, which is in my denomination, they didn't get the first woman bishop in my denomination until 2000 something. So to watch a woman bishop in the Episcopal Church be disrespected by people, I'm telling you, I was hot. Gail was like, you got to calm down, because I was really ready to be like, you're not going to disrespect her. You don't know her process. And you don't know the Bible because she came from the Bible. Okay, I'm done. Sorry, Gail.
Okay, never mind, you're done with that stuff.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Well, when I was growing up, women were allowed to be deacons. I was in the Disciples of Christ Church, which is the most progressive Protestant denomination, okay? At least in my opinion.
I would say at that time, because
At any rate, so women were allowed to be deacons. They were not allowed to be elders. And elders were under the minister even. And there was no way a woman was a minister, even in the most progressive of the Protestant denomination. Of course, that was back in the 60s.
correct. And so, like even my seminary, which it would be in a conundrum. So some people would say it wasn't a good seminary, Fuller Theological Seminary, because they allowed women to go. Because women shouldn't be going through the process of ordination. And so again, so all these feelings, and yet, what if we had in the Gospels this book that talked about this woman being in authority, a vessel for the divine? I'm just saying. I've also been giggling to myself because, one of the things to come as an African American woman into a mostly white world, people have had their challenges with me, and I'm okay with that. It's something I've dealt with my whole life. But there's a part of me that's very excited. I went downstairs, and Nora, who is the daughter of Emily, saw me, and she said, I saw you upstairs, and my name is Nora, Nora, because she needs learning how to spell her name. But it made me feel good because for Nora, it will not be a strange thing to see a black woman in a position of authority. For her, it'll be very normal. She'll be like, yeah, that lady upstairs. And that's how we make a difference. We have to talk about it, be uncomfortable about it, wonder about it, and then model it. And that's one of the things that caught my heart about unity. That in the midst of, no, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do this, but this is what we are going to do. We're going to turn within and then bring that out and have those hard conversations. And that's how you guys got me. All right. What's my next slide? I think we're getting ready to go to concluding Western religions. I want to talk about Islam. So Islam is the third Abrahamic faith religion. Now, I didn't talk about Judaism and Christianity as Abrahamic religion, but Judaism, Christianity, and Islam are the three Abrahamic religions. Well, what do I mean by that? So in the Old Testament, in the Torah, we have the story of Abraham and his wife Sarah, who were not able to have children. And then God comes to Abraham and says, I'm going to give you a child. And Sarah, actually it's an angel, and Sarah laughs like, okay. And so because it wasn't working the way that Abraham and Sarah thought it was going to, Abraham married his servant, which is the thing that they can do, and of course she was younger, and she had a baby. So then, eventually Sarah had a baby. So then this older sibling, Ishmael, is doing what as an older sibling, know you're supposed to do, which is tormenting your younger siblings. And Sarah didn't like it. And she said, we gotta get rid of him. And so they put Ishmael, and his mother's name just flew out of my mind, but basically put her in the desert. Yes, Hagar.
Yes.
And Hagar out in the desert, and a promise was made to protect her. But this whole, so Judaism begins with this story, Christianity, this story from the Tanakh or from the Torah comes to Christianity, and then Islam, because we're Christians, we're from the line of Isaac. Islam is from the line of Ishmael, right? Because he was the first son. All the promises that God made to Abraham about the blessing of your first son, which is what the first child gets, of course, oldest child. Those things went to him, but he got put out. And so where Islam takes Abrahamic, it's the line of Ishmael. And I think it's very interesting because all the blessings that were to come to that first son, I mean, this is just my opinion. This is Minnassa's opinion. This is my opinion. Look at the Arab world. That's where all the oil is. I mean, think about those nations, the blessings, the money, the capacity. I mean, like, people are talking about that in Abu Dhabi and places like that. You can walk around at 1 a.m., just like some lady just walking by herself. That's so safe. And then you think about Israel, which is basically fighting for its life every day. I think, you look at all the blessings, and not that they have stuff, but I'm telling you, you have all the oil under your country. That's a pretty big blessing. And I'm saying if God wanted to bless them in that way, he could have sent them that way, right? If we're going to go with the narrative. So very interesting. So then Islam is the line of Ishmael, Abraham's first child. And so, and they were founded in the 7th century. I don't know, this doesn't say BCE. It should say CE. But it is after the birth of Christ, obviously. It emphasizes monotheism, so all the Western religions are monotheistic, one God, and then submission to Allah. The key beliefs, monotheism, the oneness of God. Allah is the sole creator. I should say, may peace be upon him as the sole creator. The prophethood, that Muhammad is... this Muhammad, may peace be upon him, is the final prophet in the lineage. Abraham, Moses, and Jesus. So most people be surprised to find that Jesus is in the Koran. So is his mother Mary. And the 5 pillars or the core practices of Muslims is Shahada, faith, Salah, prayer, Zakat, charity, Swam, which is fasting during Ramadan, and then Hajj, where they all go to Mecca. The Quran was revealed to Muhammad, and that is Allah's primary scripture. It is in Arabic, and its key themes are guidance for personal conduct, community law, and the oneness of Allah. And the one thing that Islam has stuck to, where even, I'll say Judaism has been also where Christianity just kind of went off the rails, which is to be aniconic, no images. No images. There's no image of Muhammad, and you don't have images of God, because you're not supposed to worship that person. Where we're Christians, we also have the 10 Commandments that said, let there be no graven images, and we got pictures of Jesus. You know, you look at the Greek Orthodox, so they say that those aren't idols, they're icons. But in Islam, you are not going to see an image. Sometimes they'll show, even which was originally a part of Christianity, they'd show the footsteps. But yeah, they don't mess around. Even I think South Park, which if you know is one of the most crass and horrible cartoons that I love, was going to produce an image of Muhammad. And Islams are like, listen, you make fun of everybody, we get it, but don't do this. And I think they eventually did not, or they did it and ended up having to apologize, but they never apologize. But so that's very important to them. Aniconic, there's no images. Not going to worship or bow down to that. And see, in some ways that'd be very good for Christianity, because that's how we get that sort of division. When Jesus looks like not everyone in the world, just a small minority, then it becomes a problem. I think we have this question I want to talk, so think about Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, because I do want to talk about Zoroastrianism, so you can see some of the similarities. But you think about Islam and Christianity and Judaism, do you see any similarities or differences? Let's think about that. Now, one of the things that Nation of Islam, they used to sell bean pies in downtown LA. So good. So good. And, they're very strict about interacting with non-Islam women. But, if you had your money in your hand and you're walking towards them, they knew you were trying to get a bean pie from them. So good. So I said years ago that I was going to convert. I asked one of the ladies, can you give me the recipe to the bean pie? She says, no, it's a... So I told one of my friends, I'm going to convert to Islam. I'm going to get that bean pie recipe. And then one day in Majid, I'm going to be like, I need Jesus, and just run out. So I never did that. But I can't even describe it. It's so good. Just so good. So let's talk about Zoroastrianism. So have you ever seen this symbol of Ahura Mazda? So this is the symbol of Zoroastrianism, and it is the oldest. Could be. This. Mm-hmm.
The bottom of it is part of an Egyptian logo.
Yeah, it's Persian. They was all over there. So this is one of the oldest religions. So this religion, Zoroastrianism, predates Judaism. Right? Because Judaism predates Christianity, which predates Islam. So this religion predates Judaism. So listen to this, and you might have it. This emphasizes the cosmic battle between good and evil. Now, that sounds like we got that going on in one of our books, right? The whole thing in Revelations is the showdown between good and evil. Their supreme God is Ahura Mazda, and that's him there. So they believe in an ethical dualism, the struggle between good and evil. Cosmic order, an afterlife, where souls are judged, leading to paradise or punishment. It's starting to ring a bell? They have the Avestas, which is a collection of hymns, prayers, and laws. Sounds like Psalms, Leviticus, and maybe probably Proverbs. Key themes: ethical living, ritual purity, and the eventual triumph of good. Now, the challenge is that if you had to pick out those themes in Christianity from the text, in Judaism and Christianity, the works of Paul are really heavy on that. But it's hard to pull the strings. But when it's preached and taught as Christianity evolved, all of these things became more and more of it. Like in Judaism, there is no hell. And almost in Christianity there is, and it came later. But all these things, good versus evil, right? That's why you have God and the devil. Ritual purity. There's a great Middle Eastern restaurant in Memphis run by black Muslims, and outside their bathrooms they had a huge sink, so people wanted to ritually cleanse their hands. We had Jewish people that were a part of our group, and they would cleanse their hands there. Well, we sort of lost that in Christianity. We don't have that. But that whole concept, this big battle of good versus evil. Star Wars, every cowboy movie, right? The good guys, and then here comes Black Bart in his whole black outfit. All right, all those concepts that are woven in to Western society have a basis in a very old religion, a concept that were probably in the minds of people as they began this process. So Zoroastrianism emphasizes on moral responsibility and dualism, where for unity we got rid of the dualism. There is, no God. Say my evil twin is my evil opposite, right? We're going to do it soap opera style. My evil twin is my evil opposite. Soap operas, they always have the evil twin for a man, he had a mustache. It's like, yes. And this is the beauty of, again, unity. God as a principle is absolute good, and absolute good is the creation and the product of this principle. So we're released from that fear of the devil under the bed, fear of the devil and wherever the devil's supposed to be. We are able to step into a freedom and a oneness with the divine. And we can see even those things we dislike about ourselves, either it's its ego or my shadow side, all of those things are still good because it's part of the divinity of me. And when I can shine the light on the shadow side, it's no longer in the dark. And even my ego, a lot of people don't like their ego, but before you evolved and grew spiritually, your ego kept you from getting killed, in my opinion. So all those things, all the parts that we are good. There's no bad part, no evil part, no evil thing lurking, no end of the world badness coming. Absolute good. Oneness. How liberating. Get your microphone.
As I listen, what comes to my mind, I just need to have some clarity. Soul, spirit, are they the same?
Those are all religious terms that people, in my opinion, make up to try to describe things. So could the soul and spirit be the same thing? It could be. Right? If we're in a new age concept, then the soul is sort of my real higher self that's outside of there, and my spirit is that part of that incarnated here. But those are all popular terms.
I know, it's just very confusing.
Don't be confused. They can be the same if you want them to be.
Okay.
right? Because it's the essence of who you are, right? We all have, our science says that this thing is going to lay down in the ground. And so many spiritual paths say, but that's fine. What I love about the Bible says that we're going to take this off like a coat and then arise in the fullness of who we are. So is that my spirit, soul? Probably. It's the eternal essence. It's the God in me that can't be killed, was never born, and will never die. Good? All right. All right. Any questions? I'm going to let us take, somebody bring snacks? All right. All right. I was getting ready to say, I'm going to close this thing down. All right. Let's take so before we go to break, any questions about the Western religions? Because when we come back from break, we're going to move through the Eastern religions. Or if you think about it, we'll take a break. We'll come back in 5 minutes. Give you a chance to do a bio break, stand up, and let me go get a cookie. Maya, let me hug you. I'm so glad to see you. I closed the church the day you were supposed to be my service leader, and then you weren't feeling good, so I'm sorry. Third time is the charm. Indeed, indeed. How are you doing?
I am so happy to be alive and on this side of the ground myself.
Yes.
Sympathize with the mask wearing fitness.
Yes.
That was a large part of my last week.
Okay, all right, but you're feeling better and still getting rest and hydrated and all those things?
Oh yeah, we're back.
All right, very good, very good. Well, I'm glad to see you.
Thank you, you too. Thank you for
Oh, thanks. So what did you think of Hawaiian?
We kind of, I don't know how it took this form, but we had a lot of questions, just, I think, dialogue, and afterwards I felt like the Inquisition, I think we were just showing interest, but then I'm like, I know, but.
Well, I was saying, are you spiritual? I answered, she was spiritual. I don't know what I said.
Really, because you don't usually ask people that when you first meet them. Anyway, it was good to hear. I can see why they're good friends.
Mm-hmm.
Then you just go directly to your belief.
Mm.
You believe.
Okay.
Instead of just kind of
Mm.
Did you feel like you had any influence as far as
No.
you coming to Indiana?
No.
Did you have that talk?
That is Lily's conversation. I did say stuff like, yeah, when you move here, blah, blah, blah. When you move here, blah, blah, blah. You know, but Yeah, she went, the horrible thing for her is that she went to one of those colleges and was like, I don't know, a semester or two away from her college degree. It was one of those,
We heard about that when they pulled the rug out.
yes,
She lost her.
yes, lost, yes, yes.
That is painful, how that unfolded. But you think, well, where's the good in that? I mean, I said, you learned and you have that, you know.
Correct, you can't take the knowledge away.
That's what I said, so there was that, and she can build on it.
Yeah, but,
I know,
yeah.
as a criteria, where's your degree? Yes.
Correct, correct, correct.
When I think of my first job outside of being working in a grocery store,
Mm-hmm.
my first job was in the real world was craftsman
Mm.
downtown Chicago. How I got there was that I had a portfolio of drawings that I did in high school, and my one drawing that won honorable mention IIT. And they saw that, they thought, well, I mean, it's, I looked in the paper, saw that it needed a draftsman, answered it, they did. They gave me a job for, I didn't know how long it was gonna be, but it was like a month and a half. But like Spirit, we were on the top floor of the building, and I had to go down on their building to, like 5 floors to use the copier. To do that. And as I did that, I got acquainted with people down there, all structural engineers, and I got a job down there.
Correct.
But you know, it's that sense of people.
It's like a stepping stone.
Correct, correct.
Everything's a stepping stone.
Very. Okay. I know that we have run through this information. Any questions or reflections that you've had about Western religions or the Abrahamic religions? Actually, Zoroastrianism, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. That they are all one theological family. Well, Zoroastrianism would be like the parent, but Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, all one family. Even though you would never know that, we sort of get presented that those are our opposites, or they're not on the same team as us. Nope, nope.
You kind of wonder why there's a division.
Joe, that is not for the hour we have left.
I know.
Why is there a division? I mean,
Yes, there is.
correct, that's right. So how did they divide? Well, because the rise of Muhammad and those who believed in his message then saw him, and that's where that grew up around. Because even in Islam, there is Sunni and Shia, right? So there's divisions there about once Muhammad died, who, may peace be upon him, who were you supposed to follow? I think it was his son or his nephew. And then that's how that division came. Because people have opinions. That's how we have divisions. Oh.
So the bigger question before that is, why is there religion in the first place?
Why is there religion in the first place? Why is there religion in the first place?
Basically, I think it's to explain things that people don't understand,
Explain things that people don't understand.
but I never figured out how a God came from that.
I think that everyone knows it, in my opinion, that before us, and we got all caught up in this, that there wasn't, like Native Americans. There's a beautiful saying that says, tradition, that Americans go to church to meet with God. I go outside and I find God. So that concept that It's in the creation. So I feel that there's something innately in us that says, there's more to me. There's more to me. And let me look around. And that's the beginning of it.
That's because of Great Spirit, Spirit is in everything.
Correct. We are all the divine, and the divine in us is calling us back home because we got here and forgot. All right, let's go to Eastern religions. Here we go. So we'll start with the first one, and on these I wanted to bring the symbols because you may see this and not know what religions it's to. So this is the Om from Hinduism. Yeah. Seb's getting a drink, so I'm waiting. And we're going to talk about the key beliefs. Hinduism is one of the oldest religions, originating in India over 4,000 years ago. And so it is a diverse tradition. And so one of the things we're going to talk about is that, yes, Hinduism is definitely polytheistic. They have so many gods. They have like Brahma and Vishnu and Shiva. That's their Trimurti, their Trinity. Then there's Lakshmi and Parvati and Kali and Saraswati, all of them. Hanuman. They just got so many. They believe in many, many gods. Well, actually, they don't. They believe in an essence, which is the Brahman, and that for them, it's okay if that essence wants to express itself in many, many, many different ways. So, good old, I'll just say traditional Christians would be like, wow, they believe that their God's got a whole bunch of arms. They're just looking like some weirdos. But really, if you wanted to show that the deity or the divinity you were talking about could do 7 different things, to me it makes sense to show it having 7 different hands, because it could do this, 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 and this. Completely logical to me. And I think about Lakshmi, who is the goddess of abundance. That again, if we had an understanding, right? So when I need abundance, I understand that it's an energy. It's a divine energy, and then I can welcome that energy into my home. That's what the Hindu holiday of Diwali is all about. You clear out your space, right? Release. You light the candles, pushing the darkness out, and then making room for that energy of abundance to come in. Very simple, their holiday of Diwali. So let's talk about their key beliefs: the Brahman, which is the ultimate reality, that spirit behind; the Atman, which is the eternal soul connected to Brahman. Themes that we have heard before: karma and dharma. And so we'll see dharma again in Buddhism. We'll see the image of the wheel. So, but we all know about like karma's going to get you. Karma's going. Okay, but that's, again, that concept, that's a Christian concept that something's going to get you, right? You're going to get punished. What we know, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. The law of reciprocity, what goes around comes around. So you can be horrible and horrible and horrible and horrible, but there's going to be a time that those seeds are going to sprout and blossom, and you're going to get the consequence of that. It's not like some evil overlord waiting to punish you. It's you reap what you sow. Now let's talk about moksha, which is the liberation from the cycle of rebirth, samsara. So incarnation is that whole concept that it's a journey of getting closer to my divinity, releasing those things that are holding me back, sowing better seeds. So in my next life, right? I say, can you be a bug or an animal? I don't know all of those things. Do humans ever become bugs? Did you start as a bug? I don't know. I think those are questions that miss the point, that this is about a spiritual journey and a spiritual path, and that I can have many incarnations in one life. Who I am today and who I was when I had Lily might be the same biological person, but it wasn't the same person consciousness. And I've had a growth in my identity. I've incarnated in a different way. So I think that's a capacity to do that in yourself. What are their sacred texts? The Vedas, rituals and hymns, the Upanishads, their philosophical insights, and then the Bhagavad Gita, which is a spiritual dialogue on duty and devotion, which I'm like, they don't have the Mahabharata on there. That's the book that contains all these things. But the stories of Bhagavad Gita is that this family's having a war, and this lead warrior's on his way, and his servant is talking to him, encouraging him, speaking to him about these bigger truths, like you don't have to be violent, you can make another choice, and there's always peace and always hope. Well, eventually the guy's like, you don't know what you're talking about. And then the servant transforms and presents himself as Lord Vishnu. So again, even in everything we're doing, the divine is always with us. Can we recognize? Can we recognize that path? And so the Bhagavad Gita is the story that's in the Mahabharata. But that all is one, all is connected. So very similar to unity beliefs. Any questions? Any questions you had about Hinduism?
Aren't they the ones that hold the cows sacred?
They hold the cow sacred because it represents, well, I know that many of their Trimurti have a cow as an accompaniment, as their sacred accompaniment. There's a word for it, just flew out of my mind. Yes, ma'am.
It's not a question, it's a comment about the
You wanna-
image. Maybe. The image that we saw in gold,
You can go back to the Om, do you mind? This one?
yes, I believe that represents the sound of the universe.
The Om, the original sound. And turned it a certain way, it will also represent the energetic deity of Ganesh. It could be the profile of Ganesh. When I got sick of Christianity, I didn't know what to do. And so I have always loved Hinduism. And so I thought, I'm going to go and convert to Hinduism. So they had this beautiful Hindu temple. I went there. I went to the priest. I said, listen, I want to convert. He's like, we don't do that. You just have to be born a Hindu. I was so disappointed. But I also had one of the best experiences at that temple. I was there because it was a very peaceful place, very peaceful place. And, if I'm on the team of one of the Trimurti, which is Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, I'm on Shiva's team all day long. And so they have a section where they had the Shiva family, and so I was there. And then I realized a group of people had come in. There was this older priest, and they were having some kind of ceremony. I didn't know what it was, but I knew enough. I stepped back up against the wall, and I just stood still. I thought, this is something, let me just be quiet. Well, they had flame, and they would put their hands in the flame and do this, and eventually they had spread out, and the priest was taking them like some kind of, it ended up being food. So I was just standing there still as could be, watching, observing, wishing I could ask questions, and then the priest came over to me and asked me to do like this. And he put into my hands the very meal that he had served the Hindus. I'm telling you, I could barely contain myself. I thought, here this man, obviously I'm not a Hindu. I didn't know what was going on with the thing, but yet he included me, an outsider in this ceremony. And I barely made it out into the parking lot before I burst into tears. Because I thought, that is so unlike, if you try to go and have communion and they somehow figure out you're not with the gang, you're not getting the communion. So for me, in my other time when I was like, I'll show you God, I would go to Catholic church and have communion there. You're like, I didn't go through confirmation, but I'm still getting and that was a whole learning lesson too. Because in the Christian church, you're sitting in the pews, at my church, they passed the tray that had the water, the juice, until Jesus got it. they pass the tray that has the water, and then the bread, and then we would all take it together. So I didn't know at the Catholic Church, you either stuck out your tongue or you went like this. So, so that should have gave me away, that at first I didn't really know what was going on. But I watched everyone else, so when I got up to the priest, I did like this, put my hand, and then they had someone wiping where everyone was drinking out of the same cup. I was like, this is too much for me. I don't know all these people up in here. But I did it as an act of rebellion. Like, it's like, y'all didn't know about me, I'm not. Yeah. And then same with Christianity. Many ways, if you don't, do you baptize by dunking or Methodist way? All those things, that's why there's divisions. Because we disagreed about those things. But that Hindu priest, including an obvious outsider, just touched my heart. That I wish we could all be like that. That if you're here at our celebration, whatever we're doing, here's some for you. No questions asked. All right, any questions? Any additional questions or comments about Hinduism?
So it originated in the area that is now India
Yes.
and spread to other countries before it didn't.
Correct, and that may have been just his opinion. And so people moved about. So yes, Carol asked, yes, it originated in India, but it spread throughout the world because the people left India, as people migrate, and they took their religion with them. And so it may still just be people from those families, and the continent of India, or India, Hindu, Pakistan at the top. And so you could have Muslims that are from that same area of the world, and then Hindus. And so one of the things that Lily and I would know what to order when we went to an Indian restaurant is that if we saw Ganesh, Shiva, Vishnu, if we saw the icons there, we knew that the food was going to taste a certain way. But if we went to one where it was Indian, but there were no images, we knew they were Muslim. And so their food, they use a different type of seasoning, north-south. And so that's because one time we asked for what's called pashwari naan, and the Muslim place, and they were like, whoa, this don't taste right. And, I guess they could tell. They're like, well, you're used to eating it in the South Indian. We're like, oh. So pay attention from moving forward. That's how you can tell. If you go into an Indian restaurant and there's no icons, you're at a Pakistani restaurant more than likely, or Pakistani Indians. Still tastes good. Still all good. Because, of course, Muslims are aniconic. They're not going to have an image. And there's Muslims in China. There's a whole thing on TikTok. This Chinese man, he goes to the masjids there, and you'll see the women are covered and in their hijabs. It's very interesting. I think, again, we try to present the world as, well, China does all just this, and Hindus are just here. And it's like, no. That call, that hunger for how spirituality touches you is going to cross national lines, it's going to cross religious lines. And what feeds you? Yes?
I love this statement in here that says unity in diversity, multiple paths to the divine, including knowledge,
So read that again, because
devotion, and
here, let's get you on here so everyone, I don't get any emails saying, I couldn't hear what Patty was saying.
There's the themes on here, Hindu themes, sacred texts include unity in diversity, multiple paths to the divine, including knowledge, devotion, and action. I just think that's so right on from what we have, what I'm involved in now compared to an established religion, the Catholic religion, where I didn't even know what faith was until I came to this church. Because you're told what to believe.
It's
and
their
if
way or
you-
the highway.
If you knew the Baltimore Catechism, you were in crowd. And I had a brother who was a priest who is no longer a priest, so he was caught up in all that minutia. And he's very happy. He still goes to the Catholic Church, but
It's not a priest anymore.
it's not my
All
bag.
good. It's all good, all good. And so let me just for one minute, yes. So again, in a spiritual path, just like here at Unity, you don't have to believe everything, but let's get the basics, right? That God is good, that we believe in Christ consciousness, that we're a community, that we can heal ourselves, right? Let's get these things, but everything else. So you say, well, I'm a Buddhist, can I come to Unity? Of course you can. You know, I'm an atheist, can I come to Unity? Of course you can. I'm an agnostic, can I come? Yes. Where many other paths be like, no. You know, one of the things I know you all think I'm just the sweetest person. And I can be. But, you know, I'm ready. There's like people who have been going to this congregation before I got here and since I got here. And I'm like, y'all need to, come on, let's sign this paper. Get your membership, right? And I just restrain myself from that. Because I understand that one person told me I'm a member in my heart. And I give and I serve. And I thought, oh, how am I going to counter that comment, right? So, where in traditional churches, if you haven't signed the roll, you're not a member. So all those things, and that we can be different. And again, why is there a black church and a white church? Why are there black Baptists and white Baptists, black Methodists and white Methodists, black Pentecostal and white Pentecostal? Why is that? Right? If they all believe the same thing, how come, you know, I think Malcolm X said this, 11 a.m. is the most segregated hour in the United States on Sunday, right? Because we're all in our own little places. So I had a friend, when I was leaving, she said, is it true what they told me about you? I was like, oh, Lord, which of the many things? She says, are you going to be the pastor of a white congregation? This is a woman who grew up in the South, who her denomination doesn't even ordain women. So I was already off the charts with that. And I said, I'm going to a congregation that has a lot of white people, yes, but everyone is welcome, which cannot often be said about white congregations of other types. So I said, no, it's not all white. I said, they're just all nice. But again, that concept's so foreign. Like my friend Janet was the pastor of Metropolitan United Methodist Church in Detroit, Michigan. Janet is an African American, that is a white congregation. They called it a cross-cultural appointment. Yes, because she's black and she went to a white church. Right, so again, unity and diversity. You know, Rodney King, can we all just get along? So yes, so that is very beautiful.
The beautiful thing about Bloomington is the fact that it's a very diverse city. Now,
I'm going to say in quotes.
yes, in quotes, yes.
I had a hard time finding someone to do my hair, okay?
Oh, it's a very accepting.
It's accepting and it is diverse. Look at all the restaurants.
Right.
And those people live here. I mean, I've been told stories about their families were here that opened those restaurants. Like the May family. Like generations.
No, we still have Kentucky Fried Chicken and all these other things.
Ew.
I know, but, you know, it's just the fact that,
I still feel that we are a community that needs a lot of lessons in diversity. I think there are people in the shadows that are just not even noticed, and it really angers me to say that this community is so diverse accepted. What happened with the Palestinians that were in?
Hey, give her the microphone while she's talking.
What happened to the Palestinian people that were protesting in the university in Meadow? I mean, we're diverse to a point. We're diverse because we have a diverse population at IU. We're diverse because we're probably the only, I don't know this, maybe Fort Wayne is the same way. We're the only normally democratic voting people in this state. When I came to this state from New York State, I was way above everyone else in all the education things they were doing here. I couldn't get a job because I had 16 years experience. And the superintendent told me he spent so many years getting the the corporation into the black, and he was not going to go into the red again by hiring anyone other than an IU graduate, new graduate. So he didn't care about experience. And
So listen, so let me interrupt you. We don't have time for your story,
okay,
but what I will say is that you brought up a point that diverse with quotes. But I will also say that Gail and I drove from here to where my brother lives, which is in Goodlettsville, Tennessee. And we had to use the restroom. And we drove through a couple cities because there was the feeling that it may not be safe for us to get out of the car. Two old broads, obviously a couple. So we drove to where there was like McDonald's and all those other things, so we got in trouble. So to your point, there's places where everyone can improve, but this is still a much safer place.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. Y'all good? We need to take like a quick break? We're good? All right. So any more questions about Hinduism? And that, yes, unity and diversity. The challenge for most traditional religions, what did you say? The Baltimore Catechism. You know, I didn't know. I went to my friend's confirmation at her Lutheran church. We went to take communion. They handed me my little cup. I knocked it back, and I was, because it was wine. I was used to grape juice at my church. I was like, I'm a kid. What are you doing giving me wine? But, you know, and you'd be like, Lily, I just love drinking the blood of Jesus. It's like, don't say that. Yeah, she said that as a little kid. I just love drinking the blood. That's all I heard. Of Jesus. It's like, do you mean grape juice? Right, but that's sort of that part of many traditional churches is about conformity. Like, my first Sunday here, if you remember, I wore like a green and polka dot dress. In the way that I was trained as a minister, I would never dress like that. I would wear a black or navy blue or hunter green outfit, dark. I'm not going to show up with my Beyonce blonde hair. I'm not going to wear jeans in this chapel as the minister under any circumstance. What does that matter? I mean, I think I still have my robes. Maybe I'll scare you guys and show up in it one day. We knew she was going back, right? But again, conformity. Do you believe like we believe? Where the beauty of unity, and also about Hinduism, like Hinduism, like, well, I believe in Jesus. Hinduism's like, yeah, he's good. Vishnu, an incarnation of Vishnu, right? Because Vishnu's all lovey-dovey like Jesus. We're good. They have a form, I can't think of his name right now, but I remember years ago, I worked with this beautiful, beautiful Hindu lady. She had this picture of this God on a white horse with a sword coming back to save. Because, you know, that's like Hindu Jesus. That's what she told me. So again, there's so many, we are more similar than we are different. And if we can accept the diversity, you know, that look at roses, they're not just red or yellow, there's so many. Even I have a whole presentation I do on diversity, even there's diverse types of cockroaches. They're all ew and gross, but again, it's only the human that thinks, if you're not like me, you're not with me. If you don't believe what I believe, we're opponents. I only believe that about people that like liver and onions. No, I'm kidding. Kind of, no. All right, let's talk about Buddhism. I think you have to go forward a couple slides. All right, perfect. So the Dharma, the wheel of Dharma, that our life is rolling. It's a cycle. So founded by Siddhartha Gautama, that is the Buddha, in 5th or 6th century BCE, so 5,000 to 6,000 years before the birth of Christ. Prince Siddhartha is a historical person. The way that he came to this path is he was a prince, and he was spoiled. He never left the castle. And one day he got out. He saw poverty, saw sickness, and he saw death. Things he had never seen that had been kept from him. And he began questioning, what is this about? What are these things? What is my life? Who am I? What really matters? And that drove him out of the castle on his path. We'll talk about Jainism later, but one of the things is most of us are used to the fat Buddha. That's really the Chinese Buddha. But there are images of the Buddha who wanted to be so aesthetic, so separate from this world where he had been deceived, right? He didn't see suffering. Well, when he came out, he saw that the world was suffering. To where in those images, when they get those early icons or idols from the early days of Buddhist travel, you can see his ribs because he was starving himself. He wanted to release this world. He was on an ecstatic journey. Like, I think when he sees those fat Buddhas now, he'd be like, what is going on with that? But again, seeing the real world changed this young man's life. Now, many people don't know that Buddhism is really an atheistic religion. Buddha did not present himself as God or a God. And where he was at is you don't need some divine entity because there's this path. And if you follow your path, you will then evolve and become your greatest yet to be. So the focus is on achieving enlightenment, which you know he got while sitting under the tree, and by overcoming suffering. Key beliefs are the Four Noble Truths. Life involves suffering caused by desire and can become overcome through the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is ethical living, mental discipline, and wisdom. And then we have the anatta, no self. Rejects the concept of a permanent soul, so very different. And then there's sacred texts, the Pali Canon, the Tripitaka, the Mahayana Sutras. And so that's why they have that will. This is about following the path. Again, about being disciplined. I mean, that's what I love about Buddhism. Very similar to the way that I grew up, about having a discipline, about connecting with yourself spiritually, about knowing the text, about taking responsibility. Those are all aspects of growing and living spiritually. Any questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
The thing I really love about Buddhism.
You want me to bring you the microphone? Yes.
The thing I really love about Buddhism is how they work with the mind, right thinking, and challenging the automatic thoughts and the thinking. So cognitive behavioral therapy is very much like Buddhism thing.
And very much a part of the work that I do, which is mindfulness.
Mindfulness practices, yes.
Again, watching your mind, taking responsibility for yourself. That's the beauty of these religions that don't have some God outside you that's going to save you. You are responsible. And that is empowering because then we have the capacity to make a difference. All right, let's talk about Taoism and Confucianism. Now, most of you see this sign, and I don't know if you connect it with Taoism or Tao, but it's pronounced the Tao. I think a lot of people think this is somehow related to Buddhism or Hinduism, but this is Tao and Confucianism. And again, the yin-yang, that balance, the dark and the light, that I am who I am, good and bad. And of course, those are all terms, but up and down, left and right, in and out, that all of that is me. And it's the balance. And then the inclusion of some of the opposite, or what appears to be the opposite, in that part of myself. So Taoism is harmony with the Tao, which is the way, embracing the natural flow and the balance, which is the yin-yang. And so if you want to get sort of a new age or new thought understanding of the Tao, is to read the works of Wayne Dyer, because this really captivated him. And he has brought it into a way that it's, I'll say for me, easily accessible. My introduction, or the I see now the path that got me thinking something different than Christianity was watching Wayne Dyer on PBS. And I would listen to him and I think, he's not having horns coming out in the tail. He's not the devil, but wow, this is different from what I've heard, but it was attracting my heart. And he was taking this ancient text and showing how it had transformed his own life. And then Confucianism, which Confucius, we didn't talk about the sacred text of Taoism, which is the Tao Te Ching, and then the Zungazi. And I'm sorry to anyone who knows these languages that if I'm murdering those words. So talk about Confucianism. You know, Confucius says, ethical philosophy focused on social harmony, relationships, and compassion. Like for us, it is such a strange concept. When you're 18, get out the house, right? That's sort of the concept. Where many Asian, they are multi-family. They all live together because we're still a community. You know, we're all a part of this same big family. Social harmony and relationships. So in Confucianism, the sacred texts are the Analects and the 5 classics. Any questions? All right, let's go. So the next one we're going to talk about 3 smaller Eastern philosophies. We're going to talk about Shinto, which is mostly Japanese, Jainism, which I talked about before, which was a religion that, or a spiritual path that the Buddha was on initially, and then Sikhism. And so Sikh, that's what Valerie Kaur's family is, right?
Is this part of Buddhism?
No, this is something different.
Totally different?
Correct.
Okay.
So let's look at the Shinto. You've probably seen this, the torii. This is the symbol of the Shinto. So in Japanese, when you see these big, beautiful images there, like you're walking into a park, this lets you know that this is a place of that Shinto, the practice of that. It's indigenous to Japan. Shinto centers on the worship of the kami, which are spirits, and in harmony with nature. They have ritual purity, seasonal festivals. Their sacred texts are the Kojiki and the Nihon Shoki, with about their myths and historical records. And did you guys have something on this? Is this the one thing I didn't print something up about?
It's on the outline, though, the last little part of the outline.
It's on the outline, but I didn't give you a, okay.
As a visual artist, I love how they portray. As a visual artist.
Oh, is it on?
Hello?
Yes.
As a visual artist, I love how they portray a human being with the environment. They're just very small, and then the environment is so vast. It's just very humbling to see how we fit in somehow in the picture.
Correct. There's a very interesting show. I don't know if they show it anymore. It used to be on the History Channel. It would be called The World Life After People. And they would take one city, and they say, if all the people disappeared, in 100 years, this and this and this would happen. They would show how, like, bushes would come back and bugs that we've all exterminated and killed, and then they would, and then, like, literally, I don't know, in, like, not even 100 years, it's like you wouldn't even know humans had been there because nature would reclaim itself. And that understanding, I mean, I'll say for me, one of my favorite places is the Grand Canyon. When I stand there, I'm like, and I feel the same way about Lake Tahoe. You look across that gorgeous lake, it's just like, I can't even put it into words, that feeling of, wow, look at this awesomeness, look at nature, look at beauty. And I'm a part of this. Very inspiring. Hold on.
I'm just going to say that.
Joe is going to say.
Just going to say when I was in high school.
High school?
I took biology, and we had a microscope. When I looked into that microscope, it just blew my mind of what was there that I could never see.
Correct. That even in the invisible world. even the young man that's doing my dance lessons, that's helping with my dance lessons, he's like is it entomologist? They are into bugs? Oh my Lord, he was just talking to me about it. I'm like, ew. Right, but even something so small, he talks about how so important it is to our society. Whereas humans, we think, we just running the show. So yes, that concept. I was thinking about the architect, that he would put people's houses right up against a mountain, because he said, I'm not going to build something that doesn't, Frank Lloyd Wright. That very similar thing. People had like a waterfall coming through their house. It's like, well, this is where the waterfall is. I'm not going to dam this thing, but I'll put your house, and then the waterfall is flowing through there. That again, yes, again, that kind of remembrance that we are one with nature. Not that I'm just going to take my motor oil and just pour it down the street. We're one with nature. So let's talk about Jainism and Sikhism. Jainism, and so the Hamsa hand, when you see that is that. And then because Jainism also has aspects of Buddhism, so you see the Dharma wheel, and then Hinduism, so you see the Om in the hand. So emphasizes nonviolence, which is called ahimsa, karma, and spiritual liberation. Their sacred texts are the Agamas and the Tattvartha Sutra. So this is probably a very small sect in the world today, where all the, like Shinto, they still practice that in Japan. I think many people think of Japan as being minimal religious. But again, it's because, they don't, like, in Memphis, I used to say there's a church on every corner and a barbecue joint on every corner. Right? In Memphis, if you was really trying to get saved, you could just, go. But in many of these other religions, especially Eastern religion, you don't need the place. You walk through the Shinto, or you walk through this, or this becomes that sacred space. And then let's talk about Sikhism. At the Wingstop, there's a Sikh man that works there. And I was there on a game day. I know, what was I thinking? And there was like 47,000 other people in there. But all the young men were trying to bombard this man with questions. He would say, yes, brother, no, brother, yes, brother. Because, Sikhs are very well honored in their communities, and people that know of them. They're honest, hardworking, and very well respected. I think about the story of Valerie Kaur. Now, the Sikhs, they don't shave their beards or their mustaches, and they don't cut their hair. And so that's why you see them, they have their hairs up, and if you look, they have like bobby pins and things holding their mustaches up. Now, they wear like a turban, where an Arab wears, like, he has this round thing. Well, Valerie Kaur can tell that after 9/11, some good old American, angry, so you're just going to pick some guy off the street, like, every person on the street that's not like me is somehow involved in this horrible event. I don't know. I've never felt murderous. Okay, maybe I have a couple times driving on the 405. Let's say on the 405, I'm ready to just kill everybody. But you know what I'm saying? That what would make me wake up and see this horrible tragedy that befell my country, and then I'm just going to go out and kill someone that I think was involved in that? Like, I don't get Gail has a gun. I don't know where it is, so that'd already be the problem. Like, okay, I'm going to kill someone. Well, I don't know where the gun is. I don't know where the bullets are. And I put but some man saw a Sikh in a turban, not what an Arab person wears. Again, because of our ignorance, right? Oh, look, all black folks look alike. All Asians look alike. All those non-Christians look alike. And he killed this man. Just like boom. And then he wasn't even a part of the community. He wasn't Islam. He wasn't a Muslim. And then he wasn't even a part of the 9/11 mess. And so now we have Valerie Kaur's family to this day. Now they've been able to turn it around and bring a healing to other people but still, these people are probably some of the most peaceful, hardworking, respected, and trusted people. And some good old American had a different feeling. So in some ways, I love this symbol in that with Sikhism, there is a little bit of Muslim and Hindu. There's kind of like a good combo of everything in there. But they were founded by Guru Nanak, emphasizing monotheism. So even though most other, Eastern religions appear to be polytheistic, you can't quite call them monotheistic, but Sikh is monotheistic. So emphasizing monotheism, equality, and selfless service. Their sacred text is the Guru Granth Sahib. I know this is a lot of information. We're almost done. But any questions? So yes, it'd be good if we all took some kind of in school intro to religion. So if you're going to be murderous, you get the right people, exactly. And I don't mean that in a light way, but it broke my heart. I remember seeing it on the news, just thinking, how stupid. Did you ask him first? Are you a part of the, no. Right, a simple question, are you an Arab? They didn't care.
A little curiosity.
Correct, would have went a long, long way. And I get it, people don't, I remember 9/11, I was watching because we were in California, I was watching it happen, and I turned to my boyfriend at the time. I said, I think the director of the CIA just got fired today. I was like, how can this happen? He's really going to school. I mean, was it safe to leave the house? I wasn't feeling murderous. So just like the death of George Floyd, his sacrifice, Valerie Kaur's uncle's sacrifice has made a difference. Wish we could have learned the lesson in a different way. So let's talk about some key themes across Eastern religions. They focus on transformational and cycles of rebirth, which can happen to us at any time. Harmony with nature and ethical living, and then differences in divinity, salvation, and community. Do I have a slide with that, Seb? I have it in my notes. Yes, ma'am.
It sounds like the Eastern religions don't really worship a being or an entity, but it's more about how you live your life.
Correct.
Okay.
And so there may be those deities that are examples for you. So like Buddhism started as an anti or an atheistic religion, but now we have the bodhisattvas like the beautiful Kuan Yin who had arisen to Buddhism. So Buddha is like the Christ consciousness. That same where you've come to that oneness, understanding your divinity. And so now they have the bodhisattvas. So it's all grown because people want to add this and add that. But yeah, this is a concept about community, about relationships, about living your life right.
So do you think unity is maybe more similar
Yes.
to Eastern?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm not really that familiar with Eastern.
Because people like Ralph Waldo Emerson, I want to say Henderson, I know that's not his last name. Yes, he was studying and became familiar with these religions. Same with, on Golden Pond, which is a movie. Yes, Henry David Thoreau. That all of them began to, as the world started shrinking or expanding, depending on how you look at it, this information came. And many people, even the film was dissatisfied with traditional Christianity. And here is a path that still allows you to connect with your spirituality in a way that is, to me, empowering. And so, yes. All right, so let's look at that. Commonalities, inner transformation, harmony with nature, and cycle of rebirth were a contrast with Western religions. Part of the challenge of this whole thing about climate change. I think I talked about it last week, that many Christians want Jesus to come back, and so that their interpretations of what is said in Revelations is that the environment has to get destroyed. right? Because we need Jesus to come back, so we need the Antichrist to come and save us all. So all these horrible things has to happen. So for many Christians, they weren't down with saving the environment. We don't need to recycle because Jesus is going to come back. And these are all the signs of the end times. And now today, in some ways, we're paying the price for that. Where most Eastern religions are like, no, we are one. Nature isn't something separate from us. Like we subdue. From Genesis, the second creation narrative, where God says, you subdue, right? So we're going to subdue nature and bring it under our control versus live at one with it, which is very much an Eastern concept. So what do you think? You saw the similarities with unity in Eastern religions, which I think are really older spiritual paths that resonate with most of us. So what do you think? Did you find out something about... So let's talk about the Abrahamic religions, about Judaism, Christianity, Islam. Did you find out something or something piqued your interest that you didn't know beforehand? Like we talked about the talking donkey.
Well,
You need your microphone.
I might have known this long ago, but I did appreciate today as you were explaining how the, what do I want to say, the hierarchy or the generational family tree split, and how Christianity, you just said it a minute ago, that was new to me. Or,
Correct, that Christianity follows the line of Isaac and
Yes,
Islam
that.
follows the line of Ishmael.
Yes. Thank you.
See, I was listening to what I was saying.
I'm glad. I couldn't repeat it.
Would you say that Western religion uses fear,
Yes.
whereas maybe Eastern doesn't?
Yes. Because again, if I want to control you and it's a God outside of you, why are you going to listen to someone that, first of all, you can't even see, but they can see you? Right? Like Santa. Sees you when you're waking, he knows when you're asleep, he knows if you've been, right? That's that whole kind of concept that this entity outside of you is watching you. Right? I need you to conform. Control is about conformity. If you can worship a God that has 7 arms, 4 arms as a man or a woman, as a dog or a cat or a monkey, as long as you are living your spiritual path, I'm good with you. But no, you need to be Baltimore Catechism. You need to believe this part of the Apostles' Creed. Then you got to conform. I got to take away your freedom. I have to get you in a place to where you can be controlled. That's just my opinion, my opinion, my opinion. But yes, and I would say, is that the heart of Christianity when it began? No. But when things become corporatized.
I'm not going to like this, but going back to the word sin.
Oh,
Because-
Joe, you just want to stay with that concept.
I do, because here, sin was taught to me as you did something bad, and I was shamed, opposed to missing the mark. See, if I use the concept of missing the mark, I feel really good.
But that's not the point of the religion that you were in.
Yes.
And the priest may not have even known that. The priest knew what he was taught, and who taught him knew what he was taught, and who taught. So they might not even know. The fact that we know nowadays that sin means miss the mark is because someone studied the Greek, found out the Koine Greek, and then thought, oh, that's what this word means. So, but for a long time, that's all they knew.
Right.
And yes, it's disempowering.
Missing the mark, I don't think is.
No, but sin. You are
Sin,
sin,
right.
right? And that you have
That's-
original sin. That
Right.
when you got here, you were already messed up.
Right, but that to me is the rub in Western religion, of using fear, shaming as a way of controlling, whereas it's against, to me, it's against being spiritual.
Correct. And Joe, I feel your pain, and I don't know any words or way to describe this. You're right. I mean, how many of you saw, it was on TikTok and Instagram, this young African-American girl got pregnant, not married, and her pastor, by herself, she had to confess to the church her sin. And then the pastor said, don't throw her a baby shower or anything. Now, from what I know, she didn't get pregnant by herself. But that boy wasn't called up, right? Because this is about to shame her and to shame every other young woman in there that is feeling the feelings that once those hormones kick on, I'm going to shame you, I'm going to control you, I'm going to manipulate you. Right? So now people are mad. But a woman I grew up with, her son would probably be, her daughter, 40. The pastor before her made every girl that got pregnant do that same thing. The new pastor came and she got pregnant, not by the pastor, I'm not trying to convey that. He was like, we don't do this here. But again, the shame. And does that really work? Right, it's a way to control you. Right, I said to myself, he probably got mad because he was trying to get some with her and she didn't let him, and then she got pregnant by someone else. Okay, Minnassa, control yourself. Yes, Patty.
I just think that I've put my Catholic beliefs aside because they didn't do anything for me except keep me in a negative position. And now that I've been 16 years in mindfulness therapy with a therapist that understands everything that's gone on with my life, even though I am in depression again right now, her number one tool is this place. To come to this place and be with the people that care for me and do the things that I want to do here to be successful and not to shy away from coming, which I was...
That's true. Well, Patty, you went through a very challenging thing.
I just want everyone to know that this has spirit, and spirit is the thing that's guiding me now.
Indeed, indeed.
Hey, Minnassa, can you tell us what time frame these different religions came, like which one was first and second and third?
No, yes. So for the Western religions, Zoroastrianism was first. And did you have a question? Hold on, let me finish. So let me finish. So Zoroastrianism is the first of the Western religions. Then Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. So I think in one of your handouts says that Islam came about the 7th or 8th century, so 700 years after what we would call the birth of Christ. Yeah. So Hinduism is the oldest of the Eastern religions. And then I would say that Jainism and Sikhism are the youngest ones, but they really pull a lot from the previous ones. See, because Joe had asked me a question about a timeline for the Bibles, and I'm still trying to find a way to put that in a visual way so you can see it. I'm still working on it. See, I didn't forget. I didn't get no sleep because of you. No, I'm kidding. Did that help you?
When you have the overview of the Eastern religions, that's in kind of chronological order?
Yes. Yes, Jana.
So for a while, I went through this period where I was really interested in what must have been the influences of Christ. And I came upon this book written by Martin Palmer, and it was the Jesus Sutras.
It was called what?
The Jesus Sutras.
Sutra, yes.
Rediscovering the Lost Scrolls of Taoist Christianity. And it was basically about, there's this Silk Road of trade that was between the Middle East and the Asian world. And they even now, they've discovered that there are temples to Isa, I-S-A, which they believe actually was Jesus. So Jesus traveled and taught and learned and kind of was a culmination of all of that for those missing 18 years.
Correct. So there is a conversation, which is from that book.
Yes. Who's the author again? Martin Palmer. And I found it fascinating, and that would be something I'd like to study in the future, the Taoist roots of Jesus, because we try to live like Jesus, the practical aspects.
Correct.
And so, yeah, I'd like to explore those Taoist roots, I think.
It's very interesting. So yes, what happened to Jesus from his bar mitzvah at 12 to when he came back on the scene at 30? Okay, that's all guessing. We know when he was in the temple, he was 12 or 13 because he was having his bar mitzvah. But when he came back, that's speculation. But yes, there's a time, so for many people, he went either and he studied with African philosophers. Like most people don't know that Socrates and all those people came to Africa and studied and took their philosophy back. There's a concept that he went to India and Asia and studied there. Now, what does Joseph Smith say? Go ahead, Phyllis. Joseph Smith says that Jesus came somewhere else.
That he went to Ireland,
That he went to Ireland.
influence up there.
But also, didn't he come to the United States?
Oh, that Joseph Smith.
Yes.
Joseph Smith, not Joseph, okay, I didn't hear you right.
Yes, I'm thinking Joseph Smith of Mormonism.
Oh, yeah, Mormonism, yeah, so that Jesus came to the United States.
Right, so that some of the native tribes are the 12 tribes of Israel.
Wow, he really got around.
Yes. But yes, yes, you can see a lot of those philosophies in the teachings.
I think when you think of native peoples here, as history is recorded, I believe is that the population came from Asia down, and so the Native American were actually from Asia, and then who knows, it just kept on going around.
Correct. Well, I want to thank all of you who have attended. I want to thank all of you who are watching online. So let me repeat again the impetus for wanting to have these classes, which I had a blast. So thank you for indulging my mega nerdiness. But what I wanted to do was I want to be able to use more of this information, the Bible, the Gnostic Gospels, maybe even coming from the Buddhist or Taoist text, but I wanted to make sure that we all knew what I was talking about. That you had an understanding, well, okay, what is she talking about? Why is she talking about the Bible? That ain't part of us. No, because, correct, that it's a metaphysical understanding of those texts. And then even Phyllis reminded us that, or her reflection is that you see a lot of the many understandings of our practice of our spiritual path in many of the Eastern paths. And so I just wanted us to get understanding. I'm excited. I'm thinking about doing a message in the summer coming from the Nag Hammadi Codex, preaching from those books, because it'll be a big challenge to me because I don't know them like I know the Bible and some other texts. But yeah, let's talk about those things.
I have several, so.
Yeah, or I could come from the Apocrypha too. So many books, so little time.
Yeah, amen.
I think that there were a lot of, we see a lot of unity visuals. They even, as I recall here, they take in all the symbols.
Yes,
Various
yes,
religions
yes.
As all one.
As all one. And that's why at the very first image that I made for this class, it has all the images on there. So what do we do next? What is the next thing we'd like to study together? So think about it. You don't have to have the answer today, and I want to let you get out at 3 o'clock. But look over the materials when you have time. If you have any questions, any insights. But what would you like to learn next? What would you like me to teach next? Could we do it again on a Saturday or no? Let's do it Sunday. Folks watching in TV land, let us know. But, we could we have Wild at Heart that does a book, but we could take, we could get the Apocrypha and say we're going to pick one of the books and we're going to study that.
So we are kind of
That's true. That's true. That's right. So spiritual economics, we're going to have an amazing class taught by Carol and Jana on spiritual economics because this is our year of prosperity. And we're going to go through this amazing book by Eric Butterworth. But I'm saying, what class do you want me to teach? So think about it. What would you like for me to do next? And then how would you like it to be done? You want to meet over Zoom so we could do it when everyone gets home from work versus coming out on a Saturday.
Meredith and I, there might be another one or two people here. We took the 4T program.
Yes, yes.
That was a very light.
So the 4T, which was a prosperity, right?
Every morning. we
God bless.
I think it was a morning and night. Excuse me?
Time, talent, treasure, 4 T's, what were they? Time, talent, treasure, and
You know, I don't.
Were you paying attention? No.
Well, all I remember about it is the fact that I am prosperous, I am prosperous, I am prosperous. To get that change in my consciousness of being poor or being less than. And that really helped me a great deal.
We could do, I know Myrtle Fillmore, she doesn't have many books, but she has an amazing little, I got it as a pamphlet. Because the church that I was taking the class, I couldn't even find it anymore. Called, I think it's How to Let God Heal You. I'm telling you, if you read that book, she is just dropping bomb after bomb after bomb of information. It's like I know where Charles got all his information from. We could do the 12 Powers. We could go over that book. So think about it. Think about the best way to do it. Meet again in person, do it as a Zoom class. Could we do it in the summer at the evening? So we could still come here. So just think about it and let's reconvene on the idea. Yes, Phyllis.
Discover the Power Within You.
It's an excellent book too. That book by Eric Butterworth is just awesome. Well, thank you all for coming. Have a beautiful day. If you're able, I will see you tomorrow. Oh yes, tomorrow is the burning bowl and the white stone ceremony. You know, Joe, I was going to see, you know how you wanted to put them in like that theater style? Can you help us set the seats up that way?
Like this?
Correct. And Meredith, Joe told me that he's going to be at the doctor's next week on Sunday?
Not this Sunday, next Sunday. I have to go for some scans.
Correct, so I'm saying the second.
Afternoon. It's in the afternoon.
So will you still be able to do? Okay. Because I was just going to change Sundays if it wasn't going to work for you.